I'm Teisha Bader with Shalom TV's news update for Friday, June the 7th, 2013. The Jerusalem Post reports that Israel has expressed its desire to restore ties with the United Nations Human Rights Council. Israel had severed ties with the UNHRC in March of last year over their biased treatment of Israel. However, Israel's ambassador to the UN body, Aviatar Manor, sent a letter on Monday to the council expressing Israel's intention to continue close and fruitful dialogue with the UNHRC. Manor wrote, "I wish to cooperate with you and pursue a diplomatic engagement with a view to positively resolve all outstanding issues in Israel's complex relationship with the Human Rights Council and its mechanisms." At a council session in Geneva today, UNHRC President Remy Henschel welcomed Israel's letter and set an October 29th date for Israel's UPR, or Universal Periodic Review, and said that he hoped that ties would be restored by then so that Israel could participate. The UPR is a periodic review of the human rights records of all 193 UN member states. The U.S. and Canada welcomed Israel's letter as well. U.S. Ambassador to the UNHRC Eileen Donahoe said Jerusalem's restoration of ties with the Council would, quote, benefit Israel and the UPR process. The Palestinians rejected it. PLO Deputy Chargé d'Affaires Imad Zuhairi told the UNHRC that, quote, Israel is the only state that has expressed its disengagement from the Council, unquote. And regarding Israel's latest action to re-engage, he said an exchange of letters cannot be considered effective engagement. Diplomatic sources told the Jerusalem Post that while Israel was looking to restore ties, they were also seeking some assurances from the UNHRC that Israel would be treated fairly. Russian President Vladimir Putin said his country is willing to replace the Austrian troops set to withdraw from the UN peacekeeping force in the Golan Heights along Syria's border with Israel. As we reported to you yesterday, Austria announced that its troops would be pulling out of the area because of the spillover from the Syrian civil war. Ynet reports, citing the Russia Today website and RIA Russian news agency, that the United Nations deputy spokesperson Farhan Haq said his organization will welcome Russia's contribution to keeping the peace in the area. Russia is a longtime ally and arms supplier to Syrian President Bashar Assad. UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon said the UN is urgently looking for troops to replace the Austrians. He also warned that any military activity in the zone separating Israeli and Syrian forces could jeopardize the long-held ceasefire between the two countries. U.S. Department of State spokeswoman Jen Psaki echoed that, calling on Israel and Syria to avoid any action that would jeopardize the long-held ceasefire between the two. Israel has expressed concern over the Austrians' decision to leave the peacekeeping force. The UN Security Council was scheduled to meet today to discuss the matter. Meanwhile, French news agency AFP reported that the Philippines, one of the two remaining countries with troops in the peacekeeping force in the Golan, was now also looking at possible withdrawal after a Filipino soldier was injured yesterday during heavy fighting between Syria and rebel forces. A spokeswoman for Filipino President Benigno Aquino said no decision, though, had yet been made. Israeli and Polish archaeologists have discovered traces of an underground tunnel at the site of the former death camp in Sobibor. The tunnel ran from a barracks to outside the camp fence and likely was designed to be used as an escape route. However, it's not clear whether it collapsed on Jewish prisoners who were working on it inside or whether the Germans found out about it and killed those involved. The archaeological project is directed by Yoram Haimi, who works for the Israel Antiquities Authority and is related to two people killed at Sobibor. His partner is Polish archaeologist Wojciech Mazurek. Their work is being supported by the International Institute for Holocaust Research at Yad Vashem, the Majdanek Museum, and the Foundation for Polish-German Reconciliation. Other findings discovered at the archaeological site include a crematorium as well as human skeletal remains and other items shedding new light on the camp where 250,000 Jews, mostly from Poland, the Netherlands, and Slovakia, were murdered. The camp was closed following an uprising on October the 14th, 1943, when about half of the remaining 600 prisoners there escaped, although only between 50 and 70 ultimately survived. And finally today, Reuters reports that Bulgaria wants to speed up its investigation into the deadly terror attack last summer that killed 5 Israeli tourists and their Bulgarian bus driver in the coastal city of Borgas. We reported to you earlier this week that Bulgaria's new government wanted more evidence that Hezbollah was in fact behind the attack, following the previous government's findings this past February stating as much. Bulgaria's new foreign minister, Christian Vigenin, said today that he has asked to speed up the process of collecting additional evidence from the country's foreign partners that were asked for legal help. He said Bulgaria is ready to join a consensus decision of the European Union on blacklisting Hezbollah, and it is our obligation to provide yet more solid ground for it. And that's Shalom TV's news update for Friday, June the 7th, 2013. I'm Teisha. Shabbat Shalom.